When you walk past a massive construction site in the middle of a busy city, I mean, for months, sometimes even years, you don't actually see a building going up. You just see this massive hole in the ground.
Oh, absolutely. It just looks like a mess.
Right. And if you're the learner, someone who is always trying to build a solid foundation for your own life, always trying to understand how things work beneath the surface well, you know exactly how frustrating that invisible phase can be. You just want to see the skyscraper immediately.
It is incredibly frustrating, especially, in a world that demands instant visible results. If you're just glancing at that site, it looks like literally nothing is happening. Or worse, it looks like they're just tearing the earth apart. You don't see progress, you just see total disruption.
Yeah, but the structural engineers will tell you that the deeper they dig, the higher the eventual skyscraper can go. Like, all the most critical work, the literal foundation of the entire project, is completely invisible to the people walking by on the street.
Because they are pouring the concrete and setting the steel that will eventually hold everything else up. It's unseen, but it's the only thing that guarantees the building won't collapse when the wind hits it later.
Exactly. Which is the perfect way to look at today's deep dive. We are exploring a really fascinating, reflective article that unpacks a single ancient sentence from the New Testament.
Just one sentence.
Just one. It's from the Epistle to the Colossians, chapter 3, verse 3. And it is a profound thought experiment on human identity. The text literally reads, "For you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God."
It is such a brilliant, highly condensed piece of philosophy. I mean, in just a few words, it manages to address identity, fear, purpose, and where human beings actually source their core value.
Okay, let's unpack this, because there is an immediate glaring paradox right there in the first three words. For you died.
Right.
How can someone be dead while they are literally still living? And, how can a life be hidden? It sounds like a riddle.
It is a striking paradox. And to understand what it means to be hidden, we really have to tackle that concept of death first. So the author, Paul the Apostle, is clearly not talking about physical death here.
Right, obviously not.
He is describing a fundamental spiritual and psychological transformation. It is the passing away of the old self.
Meaning, like the old patterns of behavior, like just bad habits.
Well, it goes much deeper than just habits. It's about the old bondage, and specifically the old identity that was shaped by destructive forces. The analysis points out that human beings naturally accumulate labels as they go through life.
Oh, sure.
We get labeled by our failures, our addictions, the rejection we faced, our profound insecurities, the guilt we carry.
And the suffocating expectations of society.
Exactly. So the psychological transition happening in this ancient framework is the idea that something must fundamentally end so that something entirely new can begin.
Man, that list of labels is heavy. I mean, failure alone is massive. But here's what I struggle with. The idea of a radical detachment from those labels sounds incredibly liberating, but also practically impossible.
How so?
Well, our brains are hardwired to remember every single time we failed. If society labels you a failure, or if you internalize guilt from a past mistake, that becomes the permanent lens through which you view your entire existence. How do you just die to that?
That is the exact tension the text addresses. People spend their entire lives trapped inside those psychological cages. What this framework proposes is a total severance from that past. The core idea is that your history does not dictate your permanent identity.
A total severance.
Yes. That former life, with all its accumulated guilt and societal labeling, it no longer has the final word. It just loses its jurisdiction over you.
It's like a complete operating system wipe on a smartphone.
Oh, I like that.
You know, the old buggy software, the programming that constantly throws up error messages of shame or insecurity. It isn't just patched with a minor update. It's entirely overwritten. The old system is gone. It's dead.
I love that analogy. Yeah, you aren't just trying to manage the bugs anymore. You've installed a totally different operating system.
But wait, let me push on that mechanism for a second. If the old identity is truly dead and the software is wiped, how does someone actually stop the memory of those old glitches from haunting their new life? Because the human brain isn't a hard drive you can just magnetically erase.
No, it's definitely not.
The old software might be gone, but the hardware, like your neural pathways, your muscle memory, it still remembers the old patterns. How do you stop reverting to the old you on a random Tuesday when things just go wrong?
That is the crucial question of human transformation. And it's why the text doesn't just say you died and leave it at that. Nature abhors a vacuum.
Right. You can't just have an empty space.
Exactly. If you simply empty a person of their old identity, those old neural pathways will inevitably pull them back. The psychology of this transition requires the individual to continually anchor themselves to a new, fixed reality. You have to give the mind a new place to live.
A new place to live. Okay.
Which is exactly why the text immediately replaces the old identity with a new location. It says, your life is now hidden.
Ah. Okay, so the old self is wiped, and the newly updated self is immediately relocated somewhere safe. Hidden with Christ. Let's look at that specific word, hidden. Because when I hear the word hidden, I instantly think of something being lost. Like my car keys.
Right, but the definition operating here is very different. It does not mean misplaced or obscure. It means protected, secured, and covered. Think of it less like a lost set of keys and more like a crucial asset placed inside a reinforced vault.
The analysis pulls out some stunning metaphors for this. It compares this hidden life to treasure locked in that vault, but also to biological things, like seeds buried deep beneath the soil, roots stretching out far beneath a tree, or even a child safely wrapped in a mother's arms.
What's fascinating here is the contrast the author is drawing. The framework teaches that a person's true life, their core essence, is no longer left out in the open, exposed to the unstable, volatile systems of the world.
Oh, I see.
By being hidden, it is anchored. But because it is hidden like roots under a tree or seeds in the soil, it is often completely invisible to everyone else.
Which creates a really interesting social dynamic. It means the world might not fully understand the internal transformation you just went through. Like, people are still going to judge you based on your history, on that old operating system, because they literally can't see the new software running in the background.
Precisely. Some people may never recognize the internal spiritual or psychological work happening within you. They only see the surface. But hidden things are often growing things. Not every profound transformation announces itself with a parade, you know.
Yeah, I love the poetry of that. But I do need to push back slightly on the reality of it. Being perfectly hidden sounds a bit isolating. Honestly, it sounds like a bunker mentality.
Oh, interesting.
Is there a danger of someone taking this concept of hiddenness and using it as a protective shield to avoid actively engaging with the messy, painful, real world? It sounds like a great excuse to just tap out of society.
That is a very astute critique. And historically, people have absolutely misused this idea to do exactly that, retreating into monastic extremes or totally isolating themselves from society out of fear. But the actual framework here isn't about hiding from the world. It's about hiding in something secure, so you have the strength to face the world.
Okay, explain the difference there. Security versus obscurity.
Think about it this way. You aren't retreating into a bunker to avoid life. Your identity, your ultimate worth, is secured in a vault, so that when you do engage with the messy real world, your core value isn't on the line.
Oh, wow.
You can take risks, you can love deeply, you can fail professionally, because those outcomes no longer define who you are. You secure the core so you can freely risk the periphery.
Man, your core value isn't on the line. That completely collides with the way we live today. Because if we look at modern culture, it is practically designed to put your core value on the line every single second of the day.
It is the defining feature of the modern identity crisis. We have essentially outsourced our self-worth to a marketplace that fluctuates by the minute.
And the pressure is relentless. I mean, we try to establish our identity through visible metrics, right? Our status, our physical appearance, the size of our bank accounts, our career trajectory.
Public approval.
Exactly. If this ancient text says hide your core, modern culture screams, put your core in a display case and hope people buy it.
We cannot ignore the specific mechanism of social media in this dynamic either. It has created an entire generation that is not just tempted, but financially and socially incentivized to build highly visible identities while completely neglecting the hidden soul.
Yeah.
You're rewarded for what you can display.
Yes, the pressure to curate the perfect visible life. But the philosophy we're looking at is fiercely countercultural. It argues that your real life isn't found in applause. It's not rooted in popularity, and it is absolutely not sustained by external validation.
No, it's proposing a fixed currency for human value, rather than a fluctuating one. The worth described here is spiritual before it is social.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you start to see how this hidden identity fundamentally changes the mechanics of human behavior. If your worth is a fixed currency, safely hidden in a vault, it completely alters how you process the inevitable frictions of life.
Like it changes the stakes.
Exactly. It changes the mechanism of how a person handles criticism. It changes how they process loneliness, career delays, being misunderstood, and even suffering. because the stakes are lower. A failure is just a failure. It's not an indictment of your existence.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because it's like comparing a social media profile to an iceberg. Modern culture obsesses over decorating the visible tip above the water, making sure everyone sees how spectacular the top of the iceberg looks.
Right, the curated feed.
Yeah. But this text is arguing that the massive hidden structure underneath the water is the only thing that actually matters. Let's talk about the physics of that for a second.
That is a brilliant visualization of the argument. In physics, the stability of a floating object like an iceberg comes from its center of gravity being deep below the waterline. The mass beneath the surface acts as ballast.
Okay, yeah.
If your identity is entirely on the surface, if it's entirely tied to public approval or your current career status, you have a high center of gravity. You're top-heavy.
Which means a single wave of criticism or a sudden public failure can completely capsize you. You have no ballast to keep you upright.
Exactly. But if your identity is hidden deep beneath the surface, as the text states, those external winds and waves cannot easily knock you over. The mass beneath the surface resists the pressure hitting the visible tip. You have structural integrity.
And we all know the surface is going to get hit by storms. You can't avoid the weather. Because that underwater ballast is solid, it fundamentally alters how a person handles the chaos that inevitably hits the visible parts of their life.
Well, the ancient world was intimately familiar with chaos, and this framework doesn't promise a frictionless existence. It is very realistic about worldly uncertainties. Economies fail, relationships break, our health changes.
Streams collapse.
Yeah, and people disappoint us. The surface is going to take a beating.
So the promise isn't that you won't experience the storm. The promise is divine security within the storm. The idea that a person's life is not merely at the mercy of chaotic forces, but is securely hidden away. There is a spiritual safety that exists entirely independently of visible chaos.
But there is a vital caveat here that we must explore. Securing your identity in a hidden vault does not mean pain is absent.
Right, let's really drill down into the mechanism of that. Because if you, the listener, are going through a terrible season right now, maybe a brutal divorce or a frightening health diagnosis, how does this actually help? Does recognizing this hidden security actively act as an anesthetic? Like, does it dull the pain you feel in the moment?
It's a great question, and the answer is no. It doesn't function as an emotional anesthetic. The heartbreak of a broken relationship or the terror of failing health is still acutely, fiercely felt. What changes isn't the presence of the pain, but the authority and the timeline of that pain.
Explain how shifting the authority works.
It's a cognitive and spiritual reframing. Because your true life, your ultimate core, is secured eternally, the current hardship is automatically categorized as temporary. It provides a structural integrity to the mind, allowing a person to hold two conflicting truths at once.
Oh, I see.
They can say, "This hurts deeply and I am suffering," while simultaneously knowing, "This cannot destroy my core because my core is safely hidden away from this specific storm."
Yeah.
The pain is real, but it is stripped of its power to destroy your ultimate worth.
Wow. It stops the pain from being fatal to the soul.
Yeah.
You can grieve the loss of a job without grieving the loss of your value as a human being.
Okay, but that brings up a really compelling question about the end game here. If the believer's identity is safe and secure and hidden,
Yeah.
is the ultimate goal to stay tucked away in that vault forever?
Just hiding.
Yeah.
Are we just meant to be secure little seeds that never sprout, just comfortably resting in the dirt?
Not at all.
Yeah.
And a thorough deep dive into this concept wouldn't be complete without looking at the very next sentence in the text, Colossians 3:4. It provides the expiration date on the hiddenness.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it says, "When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory."
Will appear. So the hiddenness is a temporary phase. The vault opens eventually.
Exactly. What is hidden now will not remain hidden forever. And this gives profound meaning to the unseen parts of our lives. It emphasizes that all those invisible things you do, the quiet faithfulness, the effort to improve your mental health, the unseen prayers, the inner transformation.
The perseverance that nobody on social media ever applauds.
Right. All of it actually matters to God.
Yeah.
Just because it is hidden does not mean it is absent.
That is such an encouraging thought for anyone who feels like they are putting in massive amounts of work behind the scenes and getting absolutely zero credit for it from the outside world. It validates the invisible grind.
We can return to the seed metaphor you mentioned earlier. A seed buried underground appears completely inactive to anyone looking at the surface of the soil. It looks dead.
Just a pile of dirt.
But biologically, it is furiously preparing for life. There are necessary seasons when growth happens in absolute darkness and silence.
It's exactly like a tree in the dead of winter. If you look at a massive oak tree in January, it looks completely dead and dormant. The branches are bare, there are no leaves. To the casual observer, nothing is happening. But biologically, the dormancy is an illusion.
How so?
Just under the bark and deep down in the root system, there is massive, invisible biological activity happening to prepare for the spring. It is actively drawing up nutrients, storing energy, fortifying its cellular structure, and getting completely ready for the eventual reveal when the weather changes.
Right.
If it didn't do that hidden work in the dark of winter, it wouldn't have the resources to push out leaves in the spring.
That is the perfect biological mechanism to explain this spiritual concept. The hidden life is actually a period of intense preparation. And the text promises that this preparation leads to an eventual revelation of glory. The hidden life will ultimately be visible, the winter will end, and the structural work done in the dark will finally be seen.
This has been an incredibly profound framework to explore. Let's summarize the core insights we've pulled from this analysis, because there is a lot to take away here. First, the text makes it clear that this ancient approach to living is not merely about behavior modification or trying a little harder to be a good person. It is about a complete identity transformation.
It is the definitive death of the old restrictive labels, the failure, the shame, the guilt, and the birth of a new, untethered reality. The operating system isn't patched. It's replaced.
The old life dies, the new life begins, and that new life is held securely. It is placed in a vault. And if there's one thing to really hold on to from this deep dive, it's that if you feel unseen, unappreciated, or misunderstood by public opinion right now, hidden does not mean forgotten.
No, your worth is secured far beyond the reach of external metrics. You have ballast beneath the surface.
Exactly. So for you, the learner, listening to this right now, remember that your deepest identity and your sense of security do not need to rise and fall with the daily chaos of the world. You don't have to tie your value to the fluctuating economy, the opinions of your coworkers, or the relentless, exhausting pressures of your social feeds. You don't have to live on the surface of the iceberg. You can rest in the deep water.
And as we wrap up our analysis of this concept, I'd like to leave you with one final thought to ponder, building on these metaphors of growth we've been using. If your true life is currently hidden, like a seed underground, waiting for that eventual reveal, what kind of soil are you actively planting it in today?
Ooh, that's good.
Think about your daily habits, the quiet thoughts you entertain when no one else is around, and the media you consume. Are those things providing the right nutrients for that hidden life to eventually blossom when the spring comes?
That is a phenomenal question to sit with. Are we feeding the hidden roots or just obsessively polishing the visible leaves? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it helped you cut through the noise today and gave you a new lens to view your own foundation. Until next time, keep seeking knowledge and remember to always look beneath the surface, because as we've learned today, the deepest, most foundational work usually happens where the world cannot see it.